Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, let's dive into one of those books you just got to talk about, Mary Shelley Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein, I mean, everybody kind of knows, right? Mad scientist makes a monster, but I think we can go a little deeper than that today.
Totally, yeah. Like, why is this book still such a big deal, over 200 years later? What's the context? What are the big ideas?
Well, and it's kind of amazing how Frankenstein, it's this foundational science fiction, right? But it's also like classic, chilling, Gothic literature all at once.
It is, yeah. It's like, how do you even categorize it, really?
Right. And we've got a ton of material to work with here. Excerpts from the 1818 text. We got commentary from all these like literary brainiacs. And we even get some peeks into Mary Shelley's own life.
Oh, yeah. Definitely got to talk about Mary Shelley herself. I mean, to really get Frankenstein, you got to understand where she was coming from, her background.
Absolutely, yeah. Her life is like woven into the book's themes. I mean, start with the fact that, well, she was born to, like literary royalty, basically. William Godwin, Mary Wollstonecraft. Big deal writers.
Oh, yeah. No pressure there.
Yeah.
But then, her mom died when she was like just a baby, 10 days old.
Yeah, that's heavy stuff. And I think you can really see that loss. I mean, it's there in the novel. Grief, loss, even the whole idea of creation. It's all kind of connected.
It's true. There's a lot of darkness there, yeah. And it wasn't just her parents. Mary Shelley's whole life, was full of drama. Eloping with Percy Shelley, losing their first child, his previous marriage. It's like...
A lot to unpack, yeah. It's like all this turmoil, this feeling of being an outsider, pushing against like what society says you're supposed to do, all of that. I mean, you can just, you can feel it in the book.
Yeah, it's definitely there under the surface. Okay, so we've got this like backdrop of tragedy and rebellion, and then comes Frankenstein.
Right.
It's a ghost story competition.
Right.
In Switzerland. With like Lord Byron.
Oh yeah, total classic writer hangout, picture it, they're stuck in a villa, the weather's, it's terrible, they're reading ghost stories by candlelight, and supposedly there's all this volcanic ash in the air blocking out the sun.
Oh wow, so it's like gloomy and creepy for real. No wonder she got inspired.
Right. Talk about setting the mood. But it's funny, though, because at first, Mary Shelley, she just imagined it as a short story. It was actually Percy Shelley who was like, no, you got to make this into a whole book.
Oh, wow. Good call, Percy. A short story just wouldn't, it wouldn't have been enough.
No way. The novel, it gives her the space to really get into everything, all the layers. And speaking of layers, one of the things that always strikes me about Frankenstein, it's the structure. It's not, like your typical beginning, middle, end kind of story.
Yeah, how so?
Well, it starts with these letters, right? From Robert Walton. He's writing to his sister. And then that sets up Victor Frankenstein's story, which then, inside of that is the creature's story. It's like...
Oh, it's like a story inside a story inside a story. That's wild.
Yeah.
But why'd she do that?
Well, first of all, it keeps you guessing. It really builds the suspense. Plus, you get all these different perspectives on what's going on, It makes you think.
It does, yeah. Okay, so we've got Mary Shelley. We've got this kind of wild story structure. But now let's get to, like, the main event. Victor Frankenstein and his quest to create life. Like, this guy, he's ambitious, right? He wants to figure out the secrets of nature, push the boundaries of science.
Yeah, he's definitely reaching for something. And that's where the theme of ambition, that's where it really comes into play. Victor, he's so driven by this need to know, to go beyond what anyone thinks is possible, that he misses, he misses the potential consequences.
It's like he's so focused on the can we do it that he forgets to ask, should we?
Exactly. And of course, they go very wrong. He does create life. But as soon as he sees what he's made, he freaks out, like runs away. And I think that's one of the most powerful moments in the book, that rejection,
Oh, totally. Imagine being brought into the world and then immediately abandoned by, like, your own creator. That's brutal.
It's devastating. And it really, it highlights how the novel explores isolation. You've got Victor, he's isolating himself, from his family and friends, chasing this knowledge. And then the creature... He's isolated just by, by existing, by being what he is.
Yeah, it's like they're both trapped in their own ways.
They are, yeah. And that's going to lead to some pretty serious consequences.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So Victor is off doing his thing, more and more isolated. And the creature's just out there alone, trying to, like, figure out what's going on, who he is.
And this is where, where Shelley really gets into this question of, like, morality. Like, Victor creates life, right? But then, oh no, he's not dealing with any of the responsibility for this thing he made.
It's almost like he wants to be, like, this godlike figure, but without any of the, the messy stuff that comes with it.
That's it. He wants the credit, but no thank you to the responsibility part. And, it makes you think, what are the limits here? Like, how far can science go? What are the ethical lines you can't cross?
Yeah. It's like, those are questions we're still asking today. What do you think? I mean, if Victor had, like, actually tried to, to connect with the creature to understand him, would things have been different? Or was it, like, doomed from the start?
I mean, these are questions people have been debating for, like, centuries. And that's part of what makes Frankenstein so relevant, Even today,
Yeah.
we're doing all this crazy stuff, genetic engineering, AI, pushing the boundaries further and further. Are we, like, repeating Victor's mistakes?
I mean, I think about that a lot. It's like we're opening this Pandora's box. And once it's open, you can't just, close it back up.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the creature for a minute. He's smart. He watches people. He learns. He even figures out language. He develops a sense of, like, right and wrong, morality.
Totally. That's what makes him, I think, such a fascinating character. He's not, he's not just some mindless monster. He wants connection. He wants to understand. Remember that part where he finds, like, warmth and comfort from a fire that some beggars left behind?
Oh, yeah. That's such a small moment, but yeah, it says so much.
Right. It shows you how much he's, like, yearning for, I don't know, just basic kindness and acceptance.
And he's not, like, evil. He learns about good and evil from,
Sure.
Watching this family, the DeLacy's. They have everything he wants. A family, love. But he can't have that because of how he looks.
It's sad, right? It shows how, as people, we judge based on, like, appearances. We're afraid of what we don't get. And then that fear turns into, well, prejudice, cruelty.
And think about it. The creature's isolation, it's even worse because he is smart. He's self-aware. He knows how different he is, how he doesn't fit in. Like, it's a double whammy.
Totally. It's like being punished just for existing. And it really underlines this idea that isolation, it can be just as monstrous, as any kind of physical difference. It can really mess you up, make you angry and resentful. It's almost like, in a way, both Victor and the creature, they both become monsters because of their isolation.
That's a good point. We've talked about ambition, isolation, morality. What else? Are there other, like, big ideas that are going on in this book?
One that I don't think gets enough attention is it's about the limits of knowledge. Victor, he's so driven by this desire to know everything, but maybe, just maybe, some things are better left, unknown, like too dangerous.
Ooh, okay, so some doors shouldn't be opened. I mean, that's definitely something we need to think about today.
Right. It's like, think about all the conversations happening about AI. Are we creating something that, that could get out of control, that could become more powerful than us? These are the questions Mary Shelley was already asking back then. It's wild.
It's almost like she could see into the future. It's pretty amazing. But I want to talk about the images, the symbols in Frankenstein. I mean, she uses light and darkness so effectively.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones, right? Like, light represents knowledge, but then it can also be blinding, like Victor's ambition.
Yeah.
And then darkness is, well, it's the unknown, the stuff we're afraid of.
And remember all of those descriptions of Victor, like hunched over in his lab, working late at night, surrounded by darkness. It's like he's literally chasing knowledge into, the shadows. And that's where it all starts to go wrong.
Yeah. It's a great example of how she uses, like, the setting, the mood, to create suspense.
Yeah.
And to kind of hint at what's going to happen.
Okay, so we've got light and darkness. What about fire?
Ah, yes. Fire. That's another powerful one.
I mean, yeah, you have the creature finding warmth by the fire, but then you have, the destruction when he burns down the DeLacy's cottage.
Exactly. Fire, it's both, right? It's comfort, but it's also, well, destructive. It shows you the potential for, for good and for evil. And that's it's in humans and in nature.
It's like fire is like a reflection of the creature himself.
Yeah.
He can be compassionate, but he can also be incredibly violent. And then there's nature.
Nature. Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's both a source of beauty and peace, a place where both Victor and the creature try to, like, escape to.
Oh, yeah, like the Alps,
Yeah.
those descriptions of the mountains.
Yeah,
It's like they represent this kind of, I don't know, this pure, like, powerful beauty. But nature can also be really harsh.
definitely. And the creature, even though he looks monstrous, he often seems more, like, connected to nature than Victor, who's trying to, control it, change it.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like Victor's desire to dominate nature. It's what ultimately destroys him. And the creature, who's, a result of that, he's both drawn to nature and, well, rejected by it. Man, we've really gone deep here, haven't we? I mean, Mary Shelley's life, how the book came to be, the whole structure of it, the characters, these huge themes, the symbols, the imagery. It's obvious Frankenstein is way more than like just a scary story.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It makes you think about, like, what does it even mean to be human? What are the limits of what we should know? And what happens when we mess up,
Yeah.
the consequences? It's all still so relevant today.
It's crazy, right? Like she's writing in the early 1800s about stuff that we're just now, grappling with, like AI, genetic engineering. It's like she was ahead of her time.
Totally. But here we are facing the same dilemmas. Frankenstein is like a warning, like, hey, be careful what you wish for, especially when it comes to science.
Yeah, be careful what you create. It's like she's showing us like the good and the bad of what we're capable of. But the ending, well, it's rough.
It is. It's a tragedy, right? Both Victor and the creature. I mean, it doesn't end well for either of them. But even in all that sadness, there's a glimmer of something, I don't know, maybe redemption. Like Victor, at the end, he finally admits, he takes responsibility for what happened.
And the creature, I mean, after everything he went through, he shows remorse. You realize he's not like pure evil. He's more complicated than that. Like any of us.
Yeah.
Capable of both good and bad.
And that's what makes it stick with you. Like, you walk away with more questions than answers.
Mhm.
What if things had gone differently? What if Victor had, like, actually accepted his creation? Would it have changed everything?
Or was it, I don't know, was the creature destined to be like a monster no matter what?
Mm-hmm.
Because of how he was made, how he was treated? Man, these are questions people have been asking, for ages.
And that's the beauty of a book like this, right? It stays with you. It makes you think. It changes how you see things.
Frankenstein does that for sure. It
Mhm.
really makes you think about, what are we doing? Are we being ethical? And it reminds you that, I don't know, even in people who seem monstrous,
Mm-hmm.
there's still that human part.
Absolutely. It's a book everyone should read. We need to keep talking about it, debating it, figuring it out.
Yeah, every generation, it seems like there's something new to discover in it. Well, as we wrap this up, I'm curious, what really struck you? What stuck with you? I mean, was it Victor's ambition, the creature's, loneliness, the whole ethics of science thing?
I mean, it's such a layered book. There's so much there. I think everyone finds something different. But the important thing is that we keep talking about these things, right? Keep asking the tough questions, keep exploring these ideas.
I said it better myself. Thanks for coming along on this Frankenstein journey with me.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, watch out for the monsters we create, even if they're inside us.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.